Hello and welcome to Fashion Report Friday, the weekly video series trying to get you the most MGP possible from the Mandeville Gold Saucer every week on a Friday when judging begins for the Fashion Report minigame. This is week 278 and as you can see the theme is Duelist of the Helm. The clues include a knight for helms for your head, dueling duelist for our body, dueling duelist for our hands, and Dalmascan chic, if I could speak today, for your feet. In this video we have a 100 score, an 80 with dies, and the easiest 80 we've come up with. So without further ado, let's get to that 100 score. I went for the Doman Steel Armet of Maiming. This is particularly a helm that you can use. As you can see, the clue is a knight for helms. Other helms that will definitely work include the Titanium Helm of Fending, the Divine Helm of War, and the Carborundum Helm of Maiming or Aiming as well. So this for the 100 is locking us towards a Disciple of War specifically, depending on which you have access to. However, when we get to the chess piece in a second, you will realize that it will basically incur even more of a challenge. So this is something you can obviously get from vendors out in the world. There's a recipe on the screen there of where you can get that, or at least a list, and you can also create that as well with armor work. If you haven't got a Disciple of War, it's going to be tricky to get a 100. Not impossible, but pretty tricky. Moving on to the chest then, of course, because of these chest and hands both having dueling duelist as a clue, they need to be basically from the same set. And in specific, these are chess pieces from and gloves from St. Mosiani's Arboretum normal or Pharos Sirius hard mode. Both the gloves and the chest obviously will need to be the same thing because they're locked to whatever job or role that you play. For example, this is Reaper and Dragoon and Lancer, the Daring Duelist. Mostly I decided to go for these because I had these on hand. A lot of people are probably going to go the route of tanking, simply because they'll get a Titanium Helm of Fending and then they'll mix that with the coat of the Defiant Duelist and things like that. Alternatively though, if you do figure out a way of using the helm, other chess pieces that work do include the Defiant Duelist, Coat of the Red, Ghost and Lost Thief, and indeed the Plague Bringers and Doctor's Coat will work, and the same can be applied for the same sets here. Gloves of the Red, Ghost, Lost Thief, Plague Bringers and the Doctor's Gloves will work as well. The only problem is, like I say, with that helm pointing us in the direction of a Disciple of War. And then finally, then to wrap this up, is an item that we can actually use on all jobs and all classes level 1 and above, which is the Dalmascan leather shoes, simply because of the Dalmascan chic clue. However, this does basically mean that this is the only option that will work for this slot. So whilst it seems like a really good option, it does come at the bane of the market board, essentially, or your own crafting ability, because this is crafted with leather worker and yes, is basically a piece of glamour. But it is, if you can get it, a good option. Right, bearing that in mind, I think the 100's kind of meh, to be perfectly honest. Let's move on to getting your maximum MGP with as little effort as possible. So let's first look at the dies. Surely that's better, right? Alright then, here's an 80 with dies. As you can see, the dies are pretty, to be honest. For any weapon in the game, dye that Regal Purple. And then head, hands and feet have to be jet black dye, I know. Body Orchard Brown and legs Pastel Blue. So whilst this isn't very great, to be perfectly honest, we've got a couple of dyes there that we could definitely acquire that aren't too bad, but the 3 jet black dyes are pretty awful. So bear in mind what we have learnt over both the 100 and the 80 with dyes. Let's move on to the easiest 80 we could put together. So when it comes to an easy 80, it shouldn't really be too difficult to put the knowledge we have together. And as you can see, I just simply whacked any old gear on. I'm actually wearing the healing set, the new crafted stuff. But anyway, regardless of that, just having something equipped in every slot is the first step. Then I've dyed any chess piece in the game that Orchard Brown, which of course is vendor purchased, as you can see on screen, with coordinates there from pretty much every low level city-state dye merchant. You can get that, or if you really want to, off of the market board. Then I've dyed any gloves in the game soot black dye. I know the best in slot dye is jet black, but soot black is a derivative of that, so it gets like an extra point value. And then we've equipped the Dalmascan leather shoes, which is one of the best in slot items for the slot points. But we've also dyed that soot black dye to give it a little bit extra, because obviously ordinarily, thanks to the dye options, it would need to be jet black, but we don't need it to be jet black to get just enough points. And that's what this is all about. So the Dalmascan leather shoes, I thought this would be the option because it's accessible to everybody. It might be a little bit more expensive to craft, but I think it's a good option. Of course, mixing and matching two items from the 100 would work as well. Or of course, if you don't have access to that craftable, perhaps you want to go and just buy the Dome and Steel Armet of Maiming because it's vendor purchased. If you want to dye that soot black dye and then dye any chest piece in the game off orchard brown as well, and then any gloves in the game soot black, and then have something equipped in every slot, you'll get an 80 that way as well. It's very simple, just whatever you have access to, and if you don't have access to a second thing, then just replace it with dyes. So there we go. Anyway, hopefully this was helpful. There's obviously lots of 6.4 videos on the channel and many more to be made. So I hope you're enjoying that content. And if you are, feel free to give me a sub on YouTube, because quite honestly, it would be nice to grow the channel and see who we could reach next, and you could help me on that journey. So much love, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.